I'm now going to pose a question to each of you, and it's a double-headed question. First of all, what does success look like? And secondly, what's the one policy, and very strictly the one policy which you think can get us to success? So, Karen, can I start with you, please?
Well, in terms of us in the world of changing places, success would be having a changing place toilet in every place where there's public toilets, where you'd expect to go to the toilet for any able-bodied person. We want to see, world domination with changing places. To be honest, that would be a success for us, to be able to have them in every place you would expect to have access to a normal toilet. In terms of policy, I'd probably try to shift more into the regulations rather than policy. With us, it's fantastic to get this into the building regs for new buildings going forward. So that, to be honest, is more than we could ask for, for that going forward to start from January, because it really is going to open the door and increase the amount of changing places available for average users. So I think legislation is something more that we'll be jumping up and down about over policy when it comes to changing places toilets.
Thanks, Karen. And as our kind of other changing places expert, I'll come to you next, Ian.
Yeah, I mean, I would echo certainly what Karen was saying in terms of success. I think the policy wise, or the work to be done on that. I think obviously a lot of this is going to come from government and local authorities, and I think with the government, with the experience of sort of changing places, you've always got to keep on at the government, because they're quite nimble in some ways of promising funding, but then making it very difficult to spend it, and putting barriers in. So I think any sort of initiative with washrooms going forward has got to be really pressed hard home really with the government to make sure that money is spent, and make sure there's no way that it can be held back or slowed down in any way.
Thanks, Ian. Tom, what does success look like for you, and how are we going to get there?
Success for me looks like is when maps like Lockdown Loo aren't needed anymore, because there are toilets on every street corner, in parks, and they are available to people of all backgrounds and activities. So that's success. And I think one thing I want to change is the passing of the buck, throwing it down the road, and seeing a little bit more connectedness between governments, rather than just central government and local authorities throwing issues between one another. Actually, having that sort of linear strategy all the way down of both talking about public toilets and growing them from the position they are in at the moment.
Thanks, Tom. Tony?
Tom, can I just say at this stage, I need to send my apologies and disappear. So I have another meeting to go to, but thank you so much for the invite. It's been really good debates and discussions today. I look forward to hear the end of it. So thank you very much for the invite, and best of luck to the rest of you.
Thanks, Karen. Thank you.
Thanks, Karen.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Tony?
Right. So I think success would be a real change of attitudes towards public toilets. So that people actually wanted to do them because they saw that it was bringing value to their areas and encouraging tourism, etc. And perhaps returning a little bit to the heydays of some of these wonderful Victorian toilets that we used to be, which were very, very elaborate. I guess in terms of policy, making a provision of public toilets compulsory on a sort of well-planned and regulated basis, so that it is probably top down, and it means that we're going to get the toilets on every street corner that Tom mentioned.
Raymond?
I agree with what's been said. I think legislation drives funding. If the government put legislation in place, then they'd have to back it up with the funding to put those things in place. Probably, I think that's certainly what the BTA has been driving for 20 years and will continue to work at. I'd like to see a minister taking control. I'd like to see the Department of Health stand up to their requirements. There's equality issues here. There's social inclusion. There's all the things about health and well-being. I'd like to see the government appointing someone to look after those things, and that person then wanting to collaborate with a group like this, and probably maybe some other colleagues who would come and join us, I'm sure, at the same time, to offer advice and guidance and expert support. Because it's so very vital that we do this. It's so vital that these things are available. And they aren't going to be unless we have money, because while we leave them open, then we're going to be attacked. Antisocial activity and drugs and various other bits and pieces which are dragging these things down, and we're going to lose more and more if we don't turn this around through a refocusing, this government focusing on the way ahead.
Thank you, Raymond. And last but not least, Richard.
Yeah, probably along the lines of everything that everybody said, because it's difficult to pick out one. But for me, and probably on the topic that I've probably spoken to you most about, Tom, is that from a success point of view, that there's a realization that how important this service is and these facilities are. I think it's people don't realize what impact they actually have within communities and within a lot of sort of everyday walks of life. I guess if you don't, it's one of those things. If you don't need it, you don't think about it. And I think that's a bit of success on top of everybody else's comments. And again, I guess it's policy and legislation that then leads down to preventing the whole service offer being fragmented. So ensuring there is somebody, as you said, the health minister, that drives it through, so it doesn't end up falling in with the parish council to maintain that. And I think that's the type of regulation or policy that we're looking for. That and an accountability of if it's in place, it's implemented, because it's very easy to put some things in place and actually nobody really feels accountable to. So I think it'd be good to be able to see something along those lines where we can see some success from it and actually see the change. And one point just on all of this is, I think that the key is that anything that we do going forward, this isn't just an element of, this hasn't just happened because of COVID. It's been going on for a long time. And I think we need to be really careful that we don't fall into that, oh, it's COVID and it's over. Actually, it's been accelerated by COVID, certainly the infrastructure side of things, but there's an element that this has been happening for, I don't know the exact years, but over a certain, and Raymond and probably Tony know better than me, but over several years. So I think COVID's just maybe accelerated it, and it might help us in terms of being able to raise the profile as well.
Thanks, Rich. So this has been an incredibly insightful and interesting discussion. I think that one of the biggest challenges in setting this up was actually limiting the number of people on the round table, so we could make it a meaningful discussion, because there's so many people that are interested in this agenda and a lot of passion. So I think really there is some momentum for policymakers to pay attention to discussions like this, and look forward to having some future really meaningful debates to push forward this agenda. We've reached a consensus today around the aspiration, what we want to see, and what success looks like. I think there's a consensus too around the need for coherence and pulling together the ownership on this. I think there's the bones of an action plan as well from what we've discussed. So I want to thank each of our panelists, including Karen, who unfortunately had to make an early exit. Thank you very much for participating. Thank you for the team at Brewer for pulling this together as well. And good afternoon.
Thanks, Tom. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you very much.
Tom.